Hi everybody, my name is Dennis and welcome back to another album review. And before we get started, I want to apologize for uploading this way later than intended. I've been really busy and I just haven't been able to get to it. I wanted this review to come out a while ago, but it just didn't work out that way. So that being said, today we're reviewing the 12th studio album from rapper Lil Wayne, entitled The Carter 5. Now, this was a very long-awaited sequel in his Carter series, with The Carter 3 being one of, if not his most well-received albums to date. And this album had a lot of hype behind it. It had years worth of delays, had a couple of leaked tracks. I mean, it's been worked on for a very long period of time. And the outcome is more of a mixed bag, honestly. It has some really great tracks on it, and the whole thing is well produced, generally. But my goodness gracious, the thing is an hour and 27 minutes. It doesn't need to be that long at all. And it doesn't do anything interesting enough to keep someone's attention for that long. And this was the main drawback I felt on the album, is just the unnecessary length to it. There's 23 tracks, a lot of them just feeling like filler, like they're just unnecessary. You don't need filler for an hour and a half long album. But even with this being said, there are some really great tracks on it, but again, this ends up being a downfall because most of them, at least I feel, are placed near the very end of the album. And by that point, you've likely already lost interest in what's going on, because it takes so long to build up to this greatness that you just lose interest. It can't keep your attention long enough for you to get to these great songs. Because, I mean, he has some really beautifully interesting things to say on things like Mess and Perfect Strangers and Dope New Gospel, which I find all to be really great tracks. But all three of those are located at the very tail end of the album, and unfortunately, you just can't get to these if you're trying to listen to the album as a whole and still expect them to have the same effect. I still really like these tracks. I like them a lot. I think they were some of the best on the album. But I just wish that it could have been in a better order, or could have been a better arrangement. Because a lot of the beginning and middle of the album is just really bland, really forgettable. A lot of times it's not bad. There were honestly very few songs that I found to be bad, but a lot of them were just okay. I mean, they were just fine. They were forgettable. They were kind of throwaway. I mean, stuff like Let It Fly, or What About Me, or Open Letter, none of those are bad, but they fail to do anything that makes them stand out. They just feel like throwaway tracks that, if you completely left them off the album, I don't think it would have had any sort of negative impact. But there were a few really bad songs, and these all come right in a row of three. There were three that I mainly had a strong distaste for, and this is right before we get into the transition of what I feel are the really great songs. And that makes it even worse, having a bunch of bad songs, and then you have to get through those if you want to get to the better songs on the album. Like, they're not split up. It's not like, okay, there's one bad song here or there. No, all three of them are right in a row there, and it's a pretty tough listen. Because, I mean, it starts off with Problems, which that song has a lot of problems. It's boring, it's bland, it's forgettable, it's so painfully made. I just find no enjoyment from it. And it's more of the same from the next two songs, Dope N-Words and Hittas. Especially some of them are pretty poorly produced, which stands out really bad, because like I said, it was a pretty well produced album. There was some really solid production even on some of the worst tracks. But man, these songs are just so poorly produced, and Snoop Dogg's work on Dope N-Words, he just doesn't do anything great. And he still has potential. I mean, I loved him on To Pimp a Butterfly, but man, it is not met here. So I don't think age is his problem. I just think he was given a bad place. You know, is it his fault? Is it the writing? Is it the production's fault? I think it's a weird combination of the three, but still, no matter how you stack it up, it's not enjoyable whatsoever. But then right after that, we get one of my favorite songs of the album, It Took His Time. And even though lyrically, sure, it's just another brag song, but I mean, he uses some really clever wordplay here that makes it really interesting, along with a really catchy hook and some great vocal performances. It's a really amazing song that I think shows that just because a song is about bragging, about I have more stuff, I have this, I have that, or the main hook being God took his time when he made me, it still can be great. I mean, just because a topic is saturated doesn't mean that you can't still make a great song in the same vein. I mean, that's why love songs are still so prominent, and people have been making love songs for over a century. I mean, and they're still really popular. You can still do something great with a very familiar topic. But like I said before, it comes after some really awful songs. It's towards the tail end of the album, and you just have to suffer through it if you want to get the full experience of the album. And this middle part here is, to me, the worst part of the album. The beginning was okay also. I mean, there weren't all that many great songs, but it definitely was better overall. Like, I really liked the beats to Dedicate and Uproar. I thought those ones were more fun, and they come towards the start of the album, so they give a nice feel towards the beginning. And another song I really loved was Dark Side of the Moon. This is a really sweet love song. Like I was saying before, love songs can still be great. But, man, Nicki Minaj does surprisingly incredible on this, and I think she was one of, if not the best feature on this album. I mean, she has an amazing voice, and I wish she utilized it more in her own music. I mean, there's nothing wrong with her rapping. I still think she has quality songs by herself, but I wish she utilized this more soft, this more melodic singing voice more, because it's really beautiful, and it suits a really great track that's really well written. And I also enjoyed the song Mona Lisa featuring Kendrick Lamar. And this is another one that is pretty well written. It tells the story of a man and a woman who are working together as con artists where she seduces a different man, and then he comes in and puts him at gunpoint, and they steal all his stuff. And what I like about it is it's told from two different perspectives. One being of the man who's conning, and one of the man being conned, with Lil Wayne conning and Kendrick Lamar on the bad side of things, let's say. But they both had really good vocal performances, and I thought Kendrick Lamar's especially was really strong, because the way he conveys that feeling of crazed delusion from an overwhelming of emotions, it's the kind of thing that he showed on the song You. And even though I don't think it's anywhere near as good, because I think You is an absolute masterpiece of a song, still, he has incredible range of vocals that he's continuing to utilize even on other people's songs, and I think he is a really great artist, and I enjoyed him on this track a lot. Even though I do think some of the moments on this track, both from Lil Wayne and Kendrick Lamar, could have been a bit more polished, a bit better, I still really enjoyed the track overall. And even though I think there is a lot to praise about this album, like I said, the production is really good throughout, it has some legitimately amazing songs, there's just so much there that's unnecessary. It's such a hard album to take as a whole that it's a big turnoff in a lot of ways. I don't always want to sit for an hour and a half and listen to things. I mean, I might listen to a few of the tracks off this again, but overall, it's just has little lasting appeal. So like I said, it has a lot of good things going for it, but the length of it is such a detrimental factor, especially with all of the unnecessary filler in between. So I'm feeling a 6 out of 10. Tell me what you thought about the album. Tell me how wrong my opinion is, as always, and I'll see you in the next review.